Stuka Joe here for another live session, Malta Besieged, unannounced live session. We've been playing this game for the last week. This is a game designed by Steve Carey, originally published in 2011 by Victory Point Games, their polybag format. And this is one of the more highly regarded States of Siege games. States of Siege is a specific style of game where there's a central position. It's a solitaire game. And this game got a new facelift this year. Worthington Publishing published this edition, which we can call it the deluxe edition. It is very well done. And we've been playing the game. And today we're going to go into the third or last deck, which represents 1942. Let's take a look at the current situation on the board. Here we see the areas and the tracks around Malta, and we see that the Luftwaffe, as well as the Regia Aeronautica, are 2 spaces away from Malta. Malta has been fortified to its fortification strength of 4, which is the highest that it can achieve in the game. And the fortification helps to slow down the advance of Axis units. The Regia Marina, which is the Italian Navy, is in its number 3 box. And it has been adjacent to Malta several times. Every time we've managed to push them back. So we also have the German U-boats, which are in their number 2 box. So fairly close are all these fronts. But of course, the front that we have to devote a lot of energy is the Africa Corps. The Africa Corps in the last card had captured Tobruk, and I erroneously eliminated the fortress. It had captured Tobruk in the military phase of the last turn, but we were able to push the Africa Corps back to its current space here in Benghazi. Therefore, the fortress, because the Africa Corps is not stacked with the fortress in the housekeeping phase, it is not eliminated. So we still have the fortress of Tobruk. It has a strength of 2. We want to increase it to 3. But that depends on the number of actions that we have and other threats around the board. We have now Admiral Cunningham, which we used actually in the second epoch. Now we flip him back, and we can use him once per epoch to cancel an advance by any front except the Africa Corps. And resource-wise, we have 1 morale point, so that's pretty precarious there, 2 supply points, and 1 military point. So the situation supply-wise is not good, but it could be worse. So now we're going to prepare the last deck. This is the third and last deck. It has 2 seeded cards. Rommel Attacks, which is card number 33. And you see it has the red square. That denotes that it is a seeded card. This is going to be the first card that we're going to draw. And this one, if we're lucky enough to get there, 8th Army Advances is the bottom card. So we prepare the deck by shuffling the other cards. And I wish I was a better shuffler, but this is as fancy as I can get. Maybe I can try something like this, but it's too few cards. Nah. Okay, so we shuffle the deck. We place the top card on the deck, and we place the deck here in the draw pile. Okay. So we are ready to begin. We will follow the sequence of play. The first thing that we do is that we reveal the top card. And of course, that's going to be Rommel attacks. And I like to read the color text. On January the 4th, 1942, Malta-based bombers raided German airfields in Sicily. But the Luftwaffe still dominated Malta's skies. Rommel began his new offensive on the 21st of January, pushing back the British and recapturing Benghazi. The British then established the Gozala defensive line as Malta was being reduced to rubble. Okay, so now let's take a look at the military advance results. We have the Luftwaffe advancing, as well as Regia Aeronautica. And we have also the Africa Corps advancing, and we have the Alamein fortification. If not yet in play, we can place the Alamein fort unit in the holding box. So we will be able to start fortifying the Alamein space, and that is this space that you see here. So it is 3 spaces beyond Tobruk. Okay, so let's start with the advances. And let's see. Okay, we got an advance by the Luftwaffe. So it advances into southern Italy. Its first space. Regia Aeronautica also advances. So it is adjacent to Malta. Next is the Africa Corps. The Africa Corps now advances into Tobruk. So now we have to roll to see if the fortification stops the Africa Corps. We roll 1d6, and if the result is higher than 3, the Africa Corps will either capture Tobruk or bypass Tobruk. It bypasses Tobruk on a roll of 6. And here we go. We roll 1d6. And the roll is a 2. So that is a failure by the Africa Corps. That's a huge break. So the Tobruk 2-level fortification was able to stop the Africa Corps. That's great because it gives us a chance to increase it to 3, but we have 2 adjacent fronts. And that may not be, we may not be able to do that because we have 2 fronts adjacent to Malta. Okay, and now we place the El Alamein marker is now available for purchase. We place it here in the holding box. Now we go to the resource results. We lose 1 morale. So now morale is at 0. So now we have a penalty. -1 die roll modifier every time that we roll for additional resources. That is morale, supply, or military resources. And in this game, we lose the game if all resources at the end of the turn in the housekeeping phase are at 0. So we're getting close to that. Okay, next is the orders. And we have to place die roll modifier markers -1 for all resources, military, supply, and morale. And we have +1 die roll modifier against the U-boats, and +1 if we want to fortify. That's good. Okay. So now we have 3 actions. And let's see, we got 2 adjacent fronts, 3 actions, and we have 2 supply points. And we can use supply points for extra actions. Now, with 3 actions, I am tempted, of course, to try to push back the Luftwaffe and the Regia Aeronautica, and if we're lucky, we can do it in 2 actions, and then we can try to fortify Tobruk to bump it up to 3. And we have a +1 die roll modifier for all fortification attempts. So let's play our first action, and we will be rolling against let's roll against the Regia Aeronautica first. So we need 3 or higher, and the roll is a 6. So the Regia Aeronautica goes back to northern Sicily. Can't complain about that. So now let's roll against the Luftwaffe. We need 4 or higher. So here we go. And the roll is a 5. So both attempts to push back the adjacent enemies are successful. So far, so good. And we still have one action. One action that we can perform. So let's see what that will be. We could attack the U-boats, but the U-boats are not a threat. We have that fortification bonus. So let's use it. And by the way, the map has some spaces here where, for example, all fortified DRM attempts, we place that marker there. So we will roll to try to fortify the Tobruk garrison to a 3. And we have a +1. So here we go. And we roll 1d6. And the roll is a 4, +1, 5. So that's a success. And now we can flip the Tobruk fortification to 3. So that's our actions. We have still 2 supply points. And we're under the penalty here of -1 for all resources. So that's going to be the end of our turn here. So let's now clear the board of die roll modifier markers. And we will go now to the next card. Second card of the last deck. So here we go. And that card is Second Battle of El Alamein. And it reads, during October 1942, air and naval units based at Malta interdicted the supply lines of Rommel's Africa Corps. On the 23rd of October, Montgomery launched an attack that led to several failed Axis counterattacks. This ferocious desert battle resulted in several shattered Italian divisions and very heavy German armored losses. And we have advances by the Luftwaffe, Regia Marina, again, Africa Corps, and then the Rommel situation marker moves 1 space to the right, which is good for us because it gives us a +1 die roll modifier when we attack the Africa Corps. And we have 3 actions. So let's conduct first the advances. And we have the Luftwaffe advancing again into its #1 space. Regia Marina also, Regia Aeronautica I should say, also advancing to its #1 space. Now the Africa Corps will move once again, and it will attempt to enter Tobruk. We have to roll to see if the fortification stops the Africa Corps. So let's bring in the dice tower. And the Africa Corps has to roll higher than 3. So we roll 1d6, and the roll is a 3 again. Tobruk, the garrison of Tobruk, stops the advance of the Africa Corps. So that's 2 times in a row. And now we conduct the shift in Rommel's situation dictated here by the card. So now we gain a +1 die roll modifier if we want to attack the Africa Corps. But we have 3 actions, just enough with luck again to push the Regia Aeronautica and the Luftwaffe back. Just enough if we are lucky. We may not be able to do that. Okay. So let's see if we can push any of those back. And let's bring the dice tower. And let's see. Let's start with the Luftwaffe this time. So we bring the dice tower, and we need higher than 3 to push the Luftwaffe back. So here we go. We roll 1d6, and the roll is a 5. So the Luftwaffe goes back again to its number 2 spot. And now we roll against the Regia Aeronautica, and we need higher than 2. So here we go. Oh, that got stuck. Let me unstick the die. Let's do it again. And it gets stuck again. It's 2 for 2. Okay. Here we go. We roll for the Regia Aeronautica, and the roll is a 6. So the Regia Aeronautica goes back to northern Sicily. So our first 2 actions succeed in achieving their goals. And now we have to choose a 3rd action. We have the Africa Corps, which regularly, with no modifiers, we would need 5 or 6 to push it back. But because of Rommel's situation, and that shift to +1 was caused by a card, not a raid that we made, we have a chance, a 50-50 chance. We have to take it, try to push Rommel back to El Águila. So let's bring in the dice tower. And we roll 1d6, and we need a 5 or 6, and there's a +1 to the die roll. So here we go. And the roll is a 6 modified to a 7. Had extraordinary luck today. So Rommel and his Africa Corps are pushed back to El Águila. And those are our 3 actions. And I can't complain at all. Everything is going well for now. We have no more actions for this turn. We have 2 supply points. So we're not gonna burn another one for an extra action. So let's pick up the die roll modifier markers and return them. So okay. Just a second. Okay, I think I won't re-roll. I forgot to do all this, to deduct -1 military and -1 supply. So we gotta go back. None of that counted. So we return Rommel to Benghazi. I skipped the resources and the orders phase. So Regia Aeronautica and the Luftwaffe go back. And we have to redo this here. Rommel's situation remains at +1. Okay, so here we go. We did these advances, and I forgot, now we have to reduce the resources. So the military resources go down to 0, meaning we cannot do raids, and we are limited just to 1 attack. 1 attack or air support. Air support is if we have a convoy. So we can only do 1 attack. And we also lose 1 supply point. So now we have our 3 actions. Yeah, it was just too easy. So we have 3 actions, 2 enemies adjacent to Malta, and Rommel is still in Benghazi, and we have to push one of these enemies back. And we're going to try to push the easier back, which is the Regia Aeronautica. But we have to place first the die roll modifier markers. 1, it's a +1 against the Luftwaffe, a +1 against the Regia Aeronautica, and a +1 if we want to raid, but we won't raid. So we can only make 1 attack even though we have 3 resources. In order to attack twice, we would have to move the military marker out of that 0 box. So if we use our first resource to, our first action to try to push back the military resource, then we can conduct 2 attacks. So we'll do that even though the chances are not good. We need higher than 4. And we have a penalty. The morale is at 0. So it's a -1 for all resource die rolls. So you see how these resources, the interplay between them, we need to increase our military resources to conduct more than 1 attack, but then our morale limits or weakens this possibility. So we're going to take the shot anyway. We need a 6. We need a 6 to push that military marker to the number 1 box. So here we go. And we got the 6. So the military marker now is in the number 1 box. And our luck continues. So now we can conduct 2 attacks. And we will try to dislodge both the Luftwaffe and the Regia Aeronautica. So let's go against the Luftwaffe first. We have a +1. We need higher than 3. So here we go. No, that doesn't count. Fell out. Here we go. 4 + 1, 5. So the Luftwaffe goes back to its number 2 spot. And now we're going to attempt to push back the Regia Aeronautica. And we have a +1, and we need higher than 3, higher than 2. 6 + 1, 7. So the Regia Aeronautica also goes back to its number 2 spot. And those are our 3 actions. So we have 1 supply point. We're almost going to lose this game because we have 0 morale, 1 supply point, and 1 military point. We're 2 points from losing the game on resources. And of course, I'm not going to burn that supply point in order to get an extra action. So now it's the end of the turn. And okay, we got 3 people. If any of you can send a text to see if the chat box is working, I'd appreciate it. And we have now to pick up these die roll modifier markers. Okay, so that's it. And that's the end of the turn. So let's pick up. Okay. So we're going to the next turn now. Let's take a look at the next card. Let's see what's the next card. Battle of Alamein Alpha. So let's take a closer look. On the 30th of August, 1942, Rommel attempted to break through south of El Alamein to encircle the British 8th Army. The plan failed and Rommel was defeated by the 5th of September, having been forced to fall back to his start positions. Montgomery paused to conserve, reform, and build up his forces for a subsequent offensive of his own. So now we check the military results here. Africa Corps advances again, and we have Ultra with an asterisk. If we spend the Ultra marker and receive a failure result, we cannot repurchase it this turn. If it succeeds, in addition, we gain a +1 die roll modifier against the Africa Corps. We gain a +1 So it's an additional +1 against the Africa Corps. Okay. So let's first advance the Africa Corps. And the Africa Corps will advance on Tobruk, but it has to roll again for the fortification. And it has to roll higher than 3. And we roll 1d6, and the roll is a 4. So the Africa Corps now moves to Tobruk. Now, this is what we didn't do the last time that this happened. We leave the fortification marker there, and we have Epaminondas Leuctra. Saludos. We met at the Bellota. Great. Okay, so we have the Africa Corps on top of the Tobruk marker. So we have a chance in our orders phase to push the Africa Corps back. And if we succeed, the fortification will remain in Tobruk. If we don't, at the end of the turn in the housekeeping phase, the fortification is eliminated. Okay, so that was the advance by the Africa Corps. And now let's take a closer look at this reading here. If we spend the ultra marker, we have only 2 actions in this turn, and receive a failure result, we cannot repurchase it. I mean, we only have 2 actions. If it succeeds, in addition, we gain a +1 die roll modifier. So we would have to spend 1 action to place the ultra marker in the active ultra box and make sure it doesn't fail. And then the second action would be an attack on the Africa Corps, but we would have an additional +1. However, I think it's a better chance for us to use our 2 actions that we have to try to push back the Africa Corps without activating Ultra, because right now Rommel's situation is +1. So it's 2 50-50 shots. And that's what we're going to do. So let's bring our dice tower. This is going to be the... Oh, before we have to check the resources. Something that I always forget. Here we go. Before we attack. Okay, resource-wise, there's no changes. And there's a +1 for military resources if we want to increase them. Fortify attempts. There's a +1. And a +1 for raid. But I don't think we will be conducting a raid. So now we go to our 2 actions. And we have a +1 because of Rommel's situation. So we bring the dice tower. And we need a final roll of 5 or 6. So we take our first action and we roll. And the roll is a 1. That's a failure. And it was about time that we rolled a 1. So now we only have 1 action left. 1 action left. If we don't push back the Africa Corps, we will lose the fortification of Tobruk. And there's still a lot of cards in that deck. So let's take our second chance here. Second action to try to push the Africa Corps back. We have a +1, and we have Pete. Greetings from Australia. Great. I'm glad you love the game. I like the game a lot. We have Achilles, and the Enigma token. The note on this turn card confirms you can repurchase the Enigma token. Okay, but we won't be we're spending any actions for Enigma now. So here we will roll our second action against the Africa Corps, and we need higher than 4. We have a +1, so here we go. And it's a 2 + 1, 3, so that's a failure. So that means that the Africa Corps stays put in Tobruk. We have no more actions. So now we have the housekeeping phase. And we remove all die roll modifier markers. And now we have to remove our fortress. marker from Tobruk. So we return it to the holding box. We can purchase it later, but we would have to push the Africa Corps back to Benghazi or beyond in order to purchase that again. So now the game is getting complicated. The Africa Corps is in Tobruk, and that's the end of that card. We go to the next card, and it is Operation Exile. So let's take a closer look. Additional rationing went into effect as food shortages worsened. Fast ships made night runs to the island, but a lightly escorted convoy on the 12th of February 1942 had all of its freighters sunk. An urgent call went out for Spitfires, but few were available by the end of the month. Field Marshal Kesselring ordered that Malta must be crushed. And yes, that mention of Spitfires reminds me that there's, in this epoch, we will get Spitfires sometime, but it's with the first Battle of El Alamein card, card 42. I don't think that card has come out. We've had, no, the second Battle of El Alamein, so we don't have the Spitfires yet. So let's take a look at the advancing fronts. We have the Luftwaffe, and there's an asterisk. After advancing, the unit's value is adjusted up to 4. If currently at 3, yes, it is at 3. And we have a ×2 advance. 2 spaces, but only 1 space if a fort unit is in the first space. Oh, interesting. There's no fort unit in the first space. It's in the second space. So the Luftwaffe will be advancing into Malta. This is going to get ugly very quickly. Then we have an advance by the Regia Marina, and Ultra is not ready, so we cannot use Ultra. So we place Ultra out of the map. So let's start by advancing the Luftwaffe. It's a double advance. First advance into South Sicily. Now the second advance is attempting to get into Malta. And now our fortress at Malta comes to play. And the Germans have to roll higher than 5 for the Luftwaffe to make it to the 0 space. And if it makes it to the 0 space, we have Operation Hercules coming up. Time to use Cunningham. That's a good idea. We would be using him very early in the turn, but yes, it's we don't want to venture that. That's a good idea. Cunningham here cancels an advance by any front and except the Africa Corps. I think, yes, I think I would use him because it's better to use him than not use him and lose the game. So it's better to use him early or not at all. So let's use Cunningham to cancel that advance, which is a double advance by the Luftwaffe. So that means now that the Luftwaffe goes back to its original space, which is West Sicily. And it cancels the whole advance. Let me see how it reads. Negates the listed advance. Yes, the listed advance is a double advance, so it negates the whole double advance. So thanks, Pete, for the heads up. And now we have to advance the Regia Marina, which is currently in Naples. So the Regia Marina advances to its number 2 spot, which is Taranto. And we don't have Ultra. And the Luftwaffe, it says, I think we have to flip it. After advancing, the Luftwaffe value is adjusted up to 4, if currently at 3. So the way I read that, after advancing it is, but it didn't advance. But I think the Cunningham only negates the advance. I don't think it negates the change of strength. That's the way I read it, so we will replace the Luftwaffe with the 4 strength unit. Okay. So now we go to the resources section where we can easily lose the game depending on what the result is. +1 military, which we're okay with. -1 supply, -1 morale. Uh-oh. Okay, so +1 military. We're currently at 1, so we're now at 2. And we have -1 supply. So now we go to 0. So we got the penalty, -1 die roll modifier as to all attacks and no raids. And morale is at 0, so it can't get worse than that. So the resource situation is precarious indeed. And now we place the die roll modifier markers, -1 for raids, and +1 for supply and Luftwaffe. So +1 for supply and Luftwaffe. Okay, we got it. Here we see the situation. Here the fronts, the closest ones are Luftwaffe with a strength of 4 now. And we have 3 actions, so we're kind of encouraged to try to push the Luftwaffe, which is a big threat, 1 space back. But our situation as to resources is grim. It is, hello, Dead Wolf, nice to see you. So situation as to resources is grim. If we push that supply marker to its number 1 box, we cancel the penalty, and then we could do the attack. So we have 3 actions. So let's spend the first action trying to increase our supplies. So here we go. And we need higher than 3, and we have a +1. So here we go. And the result is a 5 modified to a 6. So we increased our supplies to 1. So now we're out of that penalty. So we have 2 actions with which we can attack. Now, but do we want to attack, or do we want to try to increase our morale, which is also at 0? Well, it depends how the attack goes against the Luftwaffe, I suppose, right? We have a chance also of attacking the Afrika Korps. And we have that +1 with which we can retake Tobruk. So we have 2 actions. I think it's worth a shot to attack the Afrika Korps and push it back to Benghazi. What if we push the Afrika Korps back to Benghazi? We may be able to refortify Tobruk. We only have 2 actions. So let's take our second action to try to push back the Afrika Korps. So let's bring the dice tower. We have a +1 die roll modifier, and we need 5 or greater. So here we go. 2 + 1, 3, so that's a failure. We have 1 action left. Oh boy, 1 action left. It's a 33% chance to push the Afrika Korps back, but it is a 50% chance to push the Luftwaffe unit back, but the Luftwaffe is still 2 boxes away. I think I would go for the Afrika Korps, even though it's a 50% chance. It's good. We may not get this chance again. Yes, let's try to push the Afrika Korps back with our third action, which is our last action. So here we go. And we need 5 or more, and we have a +1. So here we go. 6 plus 1, 7. So back goes the Africa Corps to Benghazi. So that, wow, that was close there. Still a lot of threats. Supply situation, the resource situation is bad. But we may have a chance to retake Tobruk. So that's the end of the turn. So let's pick up the die roll modifier markers and go to the next one. Okay, let's see what the next card is. And it is Invasion Looms. So let's take a closer look. Wet winter weather hampered Malta, both as a military base and as a target. And morale declined as living conditions on the island worsened, with Malta nearly suppressed. Axis forces in North Africa received more troops and supplies, and the threat of Axis invasion loomed large. But 3 resupply ships did manage to reach Malta. Okay. So we have 3 actions, but first, the military result, and see, here it is. Rommel's situation. Oh, we have to first, we pushed Rommel back. So that means that the Rommel situation marker, each time you push him back, improves because he shortens his supply lines. So it's supposed to be at 0. And now with this military result here, it says advance all Axis fronts except the Luftwaffe. Wow. And one other. Roll die to see which front you halt. 1 U-boats, 2 Regia Aeronautica, 3 Regia Marina, 4, 5, 6 Africa Corps. Advance all Axis fronts except the Luftwaffe unit and one other. Roll to see which one we halt. So the Luftwaffe doesn't advance, and the one we don't roll, that we roll for, doesn't advance. All others advance. Oh my goodness. Okay. And the Rommel situation marker, now we have to move it first to its -1 box. Okay. Let me read this again. Advance all Axis fronts except the Luftwaffe and one of the other. So let's roll a die to see what that other is. So let's bring the dice tower right next to the cards here. And it's a big chance it's going to be the Africa Corps because it has a 50-50 chance. So let's roll 1d6. And the roll is a 5. So it's the Africa Corps. And the others advance. The Luftwaffe stays put. Oh, I didn't show you guys. It was a 5. Let me, sorry about that. Here we go. I rolled a 5, so it's the Africa Corps that advances. So now the Africa Corps goes into Tobruk again. All except the Luftwaffe. So the U-boats advance into their #1 spot, Central Mediterranean. The Luftwaffe stays put, but the Regia Aeronautica moves into East Sicily, and the Regia Marina now moves into Mare Nostrum. So those are all the fronts, except the Luftwaffe moved. Oh boy. So did I read this right? Advance all fronts except the Luftwaffe unit and one other. Oh, no, the Africa Corps is not supposed to advance. Now I understand. Now it makes sense. Okay, here we go. Let me show you again. Sorry for that. So the Luftwaffe doesn't advance, and the other we rolled for, which is the Africa Corps, doesn't advance. Okay. So the Africa Corps goes back to Benghazi. Okay, now it makes sense. Okay, now it makes sense. Okay. Okay, now we got it right. So let's see the resource results. So it's just the Luftwaffe and one randomly chosen corps which don't advance, and it was the Africa Corps. Okay. Yes, Pete, we fixed that already. Thanks. Okay. Something just didn't feel right. Okay. So here we go. Resources, +1 supply, -1 morale. Okay, morale is at 0 anyway. So we get +1 supply. It's always good not to be in the 1 box. And -1 morale, it's already at 0. So that means we have that -1 die roll modifier if we roll for resources as a penalty. So now let's take a look at the die roll modifiers. And there's a -1 for Regia Marina, -1 for U-boats and raid. And all of these are adjacent, Regia Marina and U-boats. So that's not very encouraging. Okay, we got 3 actions. We have to be really lucky now. We have 3 fronts adjacent and 2 -1 die roll modifiers. Now we have, of course, the Malta fortification, which means that we have a kind of a 66% chance insurance, but we have to make sure that the least number of units advance. So let's start rolling for, let's get the Regia Marina, the Regia Aeronautica out of there first. So here we go. It's going to be our first of 3 actions. Here we go. And it's a 6, so that is successful, and Regia Aeronautica goes back to northern Sicily. Okay, we still have the U-boats and Regia Marina. 2 actions left. And I'm not even thinking about pushing back the Africa Corps because we have a -1 Rommel situation modifier, so we would just need a 6. And situation in Malta is urgent. So let's roll against the Regia Marina now. So we bring the dice down. We have a -1 die roll modifier here, so we need a 3 or more. And it got stuck, so let's place the dice tower again. Here we go. 3 or more. And the roll is a 3 -1, 2, so that's a failure. 1 action left. 1 action left. Trying to figure out who would advance in the next turn. I think those U-boats. The U-boats have a specific rule. I think I can't remember about advancing into Malta, which makes it harder for them, I think. I can't remember now. But we'll go against Regia Marina again. So here we go. 3rd action. Got a -1. 6 -1, 5. So Regia Marina goes back to Taranto. Only the U-boats are adjacent. And the question is, do we use our extra supply point to attack the U-boats, or do we take the chance that the next card will not show the U-boats advancing? Oh boy, what do you guys say? Do we spend that supply point down to 1, which is pretty precarious, for another shot at the U-boats, or we leave it as it is and we go for the next turn and hope that that card doesn't have the picture of the U-boats? I'm gonna have a little drink here while I ponder over this situation. So Okay, that's a photograph. Something came out somehow. Okay. So do we go? Oh, I'm glad you like the. Well, now we get a call. Sí, estoy en la transmisión. ¿Qué pasó? Dime.
Es que ok, pues está bien, pues que estoy todavía aquí contigo.
Okay, bye. Okay, sorry about that. Had a call. Yes, the electronics really make you feel here great. Okay, Ken says we should keep our supply. Morale, Pete, you think morale should be our choice? Morale, oh, morale, yeah, I know, but we have that submarine there. Oh boy. I'm inclined to keep the supply and just cross my fingers. But do you imagine the next card is the U-boats and the game ends right here? It's going to piss all you guys off. The game's going to be shortened. Spend it, says Dead Wolf. Okay, I'm going to leave it to chance. This is the kind of thing that I'm going to roll a die, a big die here. On a 1 to 3, I'll spend it for an attack. On a 1 to 3, I'll spend it. On a 4 to 6, we'll save it for the next turn. So here we go. And we'll save it. It's a 6. Okay, so it's decided by the die roll. Okay. Okay, just a second, guys. Okay. Okay, so we save it for the next turn. So let's pick up all the die roll modifier markers. I think I picked them all up. So now let's go to the next card. And we're just starting this deck and things are getting grim. We have a convoy. Second Battle of Sirte. So let's take a closer look at this card. Okay. As Allied cooperation increased, resupply attempts from Alexandria were made with cruiser and destroyer escorts, but these were scattered on the 22nd of March 1942. The British fought against overwhelming odds, and 80% of the convoy's cargo was lost, with the famed fast merchant ship Breconshire, also sunk. Oh, I don't like that narrative. So that's 3 actions. We have a convoy battle, but first we have advances by Luftwaffe, Regia Marina, and Regia Aeronautica before the convoy battle. Fortunately, all of them are in number 2 spots. So let's advance these fronts. Okay, we start with the Luftwaffe going to South Sicily. Regia Aeronautica moves into its number 1 spot, and Regia Marina moves into Mare Nostrum. So they're all adjacent, which is bad, but we have a convoy battle, and the convoy battle is going to be really bloody because the closer you have fronts to Malta, the more effective the Axis will be in the convoy battle. So now we resolve the convoy battle, and 2 supply points are at stake here. So the way this works is, actually, as you see there, all 4 fronts are adjacent to Malta. We have a convoy battle, so we flip them all to their convoy battle sides, and we're going to roll 1 die for each. So now, of course, we have a chance to spend one of our 3 actions to purchase Ultra, which is back in the holding box, and use our Ultra to try to nullify any critical hits. And you see that the Luftwaffe, Regia Aeronautica, and Regia Marina, they have 5s and 6s are critical hits. That's double damage, or double die rolls for damage. So let's bring in our ultra marker, and we place it here, and we have to make a counterintelligence die roll. What that means is that anything but a 1 will allow us to use the ultra marker as Convoy Escort. So here we go. We roll 1d6, and the roll is a 4, so that's good. So we're going to have Convoy Escort, and what that means is that there is a convoy this turn. All critical hit rolls from fronts not in Malta are miss results. Okay. So all those red results are miss results, but still there's 4 fronts. So there's a possibility, a maximum of 4 hits, 1 each. So let's start rolling here. So we start with the Luftwaffe. And on a 2 through 4, they will cause a hit on the convoy. And the roll is a 5. That would be a critical hit, but because of Ultra, it is negated. So that is the roll for the Luftwaffe. And we return the Luftwaffe marker to its normal side. Okay. So now we roll for the Regia Aeronautica, hit on a 2 through 4. And the roll is a 6. That would have been a critical hit, but it is also ignored because of the Convoy Escort. So now we return the Regia Aeronautica back to its front side. And now we're going to roll for the Regia Marina. It will hit on 2 through 4. And also a 6 critical hit that is ignored. So these high numbers are doing well for us because they're all critical hits that are ignored. But now comes the pesky U-boats. They don't have critical hits. They will score a hit on a 2 through 6. So it's very likely to have a hit there. So we roll 1d6, and the roll is a 3. So the U-boats do score a hit. And we mark that hit over here. In the convoy attacks hits scored. And during the housekeeping phase, we will roll on the convoy display to see if it sinks a supply. This convoy brings 2 supplies. So if it doesn't sink a supply, we add those 2 supplies to our supply track. So that was the Convoy Battle. And now, resources. -1 all resources. Uh-oh. So we start here with military resources, go down to 1. Supply, down to 1. And morale is at 0. So we're down to 2 resource points and the game is over if it gets to 0, all 3 in the housekeeping phase. So now we check for die roll modifiers. Is it 2 suppliers or 1 supplier, 1 military? Let me see. Second Battle of Sirte says here. Well, here it's Second Battle of Sirte brings 2 supplies. I'll show you in a jiffy. So -1 if we want to increase our supplies. We have also -1 to fortify and -1 for raids. Let's see where I place the -1 for raids. Okay. And then we have a +1 on any active Axis front of our choice. Oh, interesting. So let's see which one we want to place a +1. Any active Axis front of our choice. We got 4 adjacent to Malta. And the Africa Corps is adjacent to Tobruk. I mean, chances are the next card we're going to have Operation Hercules because unless we, because we have 3, well, no, we would have to push 3 of the 4 fronts back and wish that the 4th doesn't get called. So we have a +1. Okay, let's place the +1. I would place it on the Luftwaffe because it's the hardest one to push back and the most dangerous one. And let me check one thing here with the Operation Hercules calculation here. Because the way this is calculated, see, let's suppose at least one of them enters Malta. Then we perform these steps. Axis attack total. We roll 2 dice and subtract Axis casualties at Crete. And in the other video, we saw that that is a -1 die roll modifier. That was the Crete event. So we subtract the casualties at Crete, and we add the battle value of the Axis front in Malta. So we definitely don't want the Luftwaffe in Malta. I'd rather have the Regia Aeronautica. So I guess that makes that decision easy. So we place that +1 die roll modifier marker there. And now we have 3 actions. So let's see, who do we attack first? And I think it's going to be the Luftwaffe. It's going to be the front. So we have a +1 and we need 5 or more. So we roll 1d6. The roll is a 2 modified to a 3. That's a miss. And actually that was our second action because the first action we used for Ultra, right? Remember? We activated Ultra. So we have now 1 action left and 4 fronts adjacent to, I think we have to push the Luftwaffe back. Because if 2 of those fronts advance, you just add them up. I think we have to, or try to push one of the easy ones, but it's not going to make a difference if the Luftwaffe advances. It's 4 fronts here. That is bad. That is bad. Let's try to push the Luftwaffe back with our third action here. And we have a +1, so we roll 1d6. And again, a 2 modified to a 3. See, my luck is now evening out. It was just too good to be true. So that's our third action. We have a supply point, but we don't want to reduce it to 0 because then we would have just 1 military point and we may lose the game in resources anyway. So that's going to be the end of our actions. And now we go to housekeeping, and now we resolve the Convoy Battle. Wait a second. No. The Convoy Battle, there's just 1 hit that they can make, that they can score on us. So that means that this convoy, which is Second Battle of Sirte, let me see if I can locate it here. You can see here, at least 1 of these supplies is coming in. So that gives us a free action, and we add that 1 supply, or maybe 2, or the other supply if it doesn't get sunk. So I think we should, if we use, we can't. If we burn this supply for another action, then we're in the penalty and we get a -1 to all attacks. So it kind of defeats the purpose. So, okay, so let's go with the Convoy Battle then, since we're not going to do an extra action based on spending a supply point. So now there's just 1 hit that the Axis scored on the convoy, and we roll for that hit to see if we lose a supply or not. So here we go. Okay. Roll 1d6. It got stuck. Doesn't count. Here we go again. Roll 1d6, and the result is a 5. So we lost 1 of the supply points there. But 1 comes in, so that's good. And we add that supply point here to the track. So we have 2 supply points. At least we're not going to lose on resources soon. And we have one free action. One free action. Who do we attack? We've tried the Luftwaffe twice. Third is a charm. Oh, yes. Ultra allows us to look at the next card. Yes, Pete, man. I forgot that. The Ultra result. See, this is a good thing about live, because if I were filming this on my own, that would have been a mistake. No, it doesn't. Ultra doesn't know. Not in this case. We used Ultra for Convoy Escort. We didn't use it for intelligence. No. So that's why Ultra in this case only allows us to cancel the... But that's a good point. I mean, if we would have used Ultra, a second action for Ultra, we could have done that. But we didn't have enough action points. So we don't get a peek at the card that's coming up next. We have to decide which front we want to push back. Luftwaffe is just, we've missed twice. It's a 50-50 chance. Regia Aeronautica and the others are 66% chance. So I'd rather assure pushing one back. Who knows, maybe that's the one that gets the call. So let's push Regia Aeronautica back. So we roll 1d6 and we need higher than 2. And the roll is a 3. So Regia Aeronautica goes back to its number 2 spot. Okay. And that's the end of the turn. We now return Ultra to the holding box, and we return all die roll modifier markers also. That's the situation. It is really ugly. And we have 3 fronts adjacent to Malta. Of course, Malta has a fort that may stop. Who knows, all 3 or maybe none. So we go now to the next card. So let's see what it is. Next card is another convoy. Oh, Operation Harpoon. So this is another convoy. 2 convoys back to back. So let's see what this card says. Mid-June 1942. Rommel was maintaining a constant pressure in North Africa as matters there rose to a new intensity. In the Med, an entire convoy, Vigorous, was turned back by heavy Axis attacks in the bomb alley and by threats of the Italian Navy, who lacked oil reserves. Fighters based on Malta remained scarce. And we have advances like by everybody and their mother here. We have the Luftwaffe, Regia Aeronautica, which we pushed back, but the U-boats also move in, and the Africa Corps, and a convoy battle. So let's get to that now. So we start with the Luftwaffe. And the Luftwaffe attempts to enter Malta here. So now we roll for the fortification. And the Germans have to roll higher than 4 to move in to the fort, to move into the island. So here we go. And the roll is a 2. So the fort holds on, and the Luftwaffe does not advance. Oh. The next advance is by Regia Aeronautica. It's now adjacent to East Sicily. And the next advance is by the U-boats. So now we have to roll again for the Malta fortification. I always think it's the U-boats is going to kill you, that pesky little 2. So here we go. So we roll 1d6, and the Germans need higher than 4. And the roll is a 1, so the U-boats also fail. So we live for another day. And now we have to advance the Africa Corps. And the Africa Corps moves into an empty Tobruk. And now we resolve the Convoy Battle, and this is going to be ugly indeed. But we have 3 actions, and I think we have to use Ultra to cancel all those critical hits, unless we roll a 1 in the counterintelligence die roll. So let's start by flipping all these fronts to their convoy sides. Here we go. Okay, and we will use one of our 3 actions, so we have 2 left, to bring the Ultra marker from the holding box into the active Ultra box. And now we have to make a counterintelligence die roll. So we will be able to use it for any of these 2 purposes if we roll anything but a 1. So here we go. And the roll is a 5. So we can use Ultra. And we will use Ultra for the purpose of Convoy Escort. That is to cancel those critical hits. Okay. So, and the game actually, let me show you guys this. The game has, I think it has a box here where you put the Ultra marker Convoy Escort, just to remind you that it's been used for Convoy Escort. So I'll do that. So now we go to the Convoy Battles, and there's not going to be any critical hits. So we start with the Luftwaffe. It will hit on 3s on a 2 through 4. The roll is a 4, so that's 1 hit. And we record that up here. So 1 hit so far. Now we go with Regia Aeronautica, also on a 2 through 4. It rolls a 1, so that's a miss. And let's flip back these 2 fronts that already fired. And now we roll for Regia Marina, and it rolls, it scores a hit on a 2 through 4. So here we go. 2, so that's a hit. And we score that hit up here in the Convoy Escort. So now there's 2 hits. Finally, the U-boats, which they score hits on 2 through 6. So we roll 1d6. And the roll is a 5, so that's also a hit. And we score the 3rd hit. So it's 3 hits on a convoy. Let me show you that convoy. Operation Harpoon, you see it here. That has just 2 supplies coming. So chances are that we may lose both of them. Not looking good. So that was the Convoy Battle. Now we move on to resources. And it reads -1 morale. And morale for a long time has been in the 0 box, which provides that penalty if we roll for resources, which we haven't done since morale is in the 0 box. So now we go to the die roll modifiers. Okay. I used air support for the Convoy Harpoon. But I think I used my, yes, we used all our, wait, we haven't pushed back our, yes, we may give air support. That's a good point. Air support is we burn an action, and we can reduce the rolls for the convoy. And this would burn 1 action. So I'll consider that, sure. But let's put the orders first. It's a -1 for supply. It's a -1 for morale. It's a -1 if we want to do a raid. And +1 if we want to increase military resources. And Regia Marina also has a +1. Regia Marina is adjacent to Malta. So those are the orders. So let's see what we'll do. We have 3 orders, and we have 2 supplies coming in, 3 hits. So we're considering using one of those orders. But we don't have to take that, just make that decision yet. We may try to push some of these fronts back. Make sure they don't advance on... Did I advance these fronts? I think I didn't advance these fronts, did I? No. I think I did this wrong. For Operation Harpoon, I didn't advance the fronts, right? Let me see. Air support for Regia Marina. Let me see. I think I didn't advance. I think I went to the Convoy Battle and I didn't advance these fronts. Or, yes, I didn't advance these fronts. I'm sure I didn't advance these fronts because I haven't advanced the... Oh, yes, I advanced the Africa Corps. I'm thinking, did I advance these fronts? Now I don't remember. Went completely blank there. Did I advance the fronts and they're all adjacent now? Maybe I did. I may have done so. I should have done so. Yeah, I think I did. Let me see. Got Magnus still there. Anybody, do you remember if I advanced these, the Luftwaffe, Regia Marina, Regia Aeronautica, and U-boats? I think I didn't. I think I just went with the Convoy Battle. No, I didn't. I was supposed to do that first and then do the Convoy Battle. Oh, man. So let's backtrack. Yeah, I was supposed to advance first all these fronts and then do the Convoy Battle. And I think I did the Convoy Battle first. Why did I do the Convoy Battle first? That's weird. Oh, yes, they advance. You're right. Luftwaffe advance. Yes, Aeronautica. Yeah, I remember. Yes, we advanced them. But Malta stopped them. Okay, we're good. We're good. Okay, these are the vagaries of handling a lot of stuff here, and forgot that detail. Yeah, and the Africa Corps captured Tobruk. Okay, we're good. We had advanced the fronts. So now we have our 3 orders. We have 4 adjacent fronts. And we have the convoy to worry about to get some more supplies. So, and by the way, we can spend an additional supply for an extra order, and we may do that in order to push those fronts back. So let's try to push the fronts back. And we don't have 3 orders, we have 2 orders because we used the Ultra. Okay, so we have 2 orders left. So let's start by pushing the Regia Marina out of there. Okay, here we go. We have a +1, and we need 3 or more, so here we go. So 3 + 1 is 4. So Regia Marina goes back to Taranto. We have 1 order left, and 3 fronts adjacent. We've got to push another front back. Should we push the easy ones or the hard? The Luftwaffe is a tough front. We don't want that. But it's just a 33% chance. So, who advanced now? All 3 advanced in this turn. Okay. With 1 action left. 1 action left. Well, I like to live dangerously. I want to push that Luftwaffe because I think if the Luftwaffe enters, that +4 is just going to be a killer. So let's try to push the Luftwaffe back, even though it's a 33% chance. We need 5 or greater. So, and we still have one bonus action we could spend if we wanted to. Okay, here we go. We need 5 or 6, and the roll is a 3. So we would have pushed any of the other ones back, but we went with the Luftwaffe. So Luftwaffe stays where it is. Now we have this point here. We have 1 military point, 0 morale points, 2 supply points. I think we have to brace for impact. We can't spend that supply point because, well, we still have 1 military point. We've got to push something back. We got to push something back. I'm thinking about spending that supply point. An air support for the convoy, yes, will give us an extra action. Yes, we'll get the extra action from the convoy. So let's save that support point, that supply point. So that's the end of our orders phase. And now we resolve the convoy. Okay, and there's a total of 3 hits, so there's 3 rolls here. And we will we'll spend the supply point to bring our air support, so we place it here. So that means that our supply now goes down to 1. Okay. So that's, but now we get a -1 die roll modifier on each of these dice, 3 dice. So here we go. And here comes the first die roll. Is a 3, which is modified to a 2. So that is a miss. Okay. Okay, so far so good. 2 dice to go. Next die. Oh, 6 modified to a 5. So we lose that second, the one to the right. And we have 1 die left with a -1 die roll modifier. And it's a 5 modified to a 4, so we lost it too. We lost the entire convoy here. So, ouch. Here you see the situation. Nothing comes in, and that gives us a penalty of -1 morale, but our morale's been on the floor for a while. So morale just can't get worse. And that's the end of the convoy. We don't get an extra action. So this video may end very soon. So let's pull out the die roll modifiers. We still have a lot of cards to go. I mean, if the game were easy, nobody would like it, right? If it was just so easy to win. And we go to the next card. Okay, Josh got a lot of cards to go. Battle of Gozala. So let's take a look at what this card says here. Rommel launched a major attack against the Gozala line on the 26th of May 1942. Unexpectedly, fierce Free French resistance at Bir Hakeim threatened Axis supplies. The desert battle raged in the cauldron, with the British suffering heavy tank losses, marking the 13th of June as Black Sunday. The next day, the British began a withdrawal. Okay, we got 3 actions, but there's advances by the Luftwaffe. And if currently placed in its 3 value side, reduce the Tobruk fort. We don't even have the Tobruk fort. We don't have to worry about that. Okay, so advances by Luftwaffe, Regia Aeronautica, and the Africa Corps. Let's advance the Africa Corps first. Or you're supposed to advance them, I suppose. In this game, you're supposed to advance them in the order from left to right. So let's go here with the Luftwaffe advances first. and it advances onto Malta. So now we have to roll for the fort. See if it stops the Luftwaffe. I bring the dice tower. And the Luftwaffe needs 5 or 6 to breach the fort in Malta. And it did. Ouch! So what that means is that the Luftwaffe marker advances into the 0 box, and Malta has been breached. And I believe now that the marker is flipped to its 3 side. And I'm going to double check quickly here, but I'm pretty sure. Boy, it says the housekeeping, okay. If the Malta fort was breached, meaning passed through its test in advance, reduce the fort 1 level. Okay. Was breached this turn, meaning an extra. Okay, but that's in the, oh, okay. That's in the housekeeping phase. Okay, it's not now. The Malta fort was breached. We reduce it to the, in the housekeeping phase. That's what it says there. Let me see it again. Housekeeping phase. Fort removal and reduction, yeah. So, well, if we still are alive in the housekeeping phase. So that was the advance by the Luftwaffe. It entered the Malta space. Now, it's the Regia Aeronautica's turn. We bring the dice tower. And the Regia Aeronautica will attempt to enter Malta here. And it needs higher than 4 to also breach the Malta's defenses. And this time it's a 3. So the Regia Aeronautica fails and stays in its number 1 box. Next to move is the Africa Corps. And the Africa Corps now is on a roll, moving into Sidi Barrani. We haven't even given any thought to bringing the El Alamein fortifications. We haven't had actions, but we better start thinking about that. Okay, so we resolved all advances, and we have the Luftwaffe there. And Operation Hercules is performed during the housekeeping phase of turns when Axis fronts still occupy the Malta box. So we have a chance to push that Luftwaffe out of there, but it's a 4-strength unit. So let's go now to the, oh, 1 second. If currently on its 3 values, oh, that was the Tobruk fort, not the Luftwaffe. Resources, -1 military, -1 supply. Oh no, look at this. -1 military, no raids, only 1 attack. We're at 0. And -1 supply, no raids, and -1 to all attacks. So we can only perform 1 attack with a -1. And we have the Luftwaffe in Malta. So let's check the die roll modifiers that are applicable. And we see here that is -1 if we want to raid. We have +1 military and Luftwaffe. That's good. And what's the other one? Military and no fortified actions allowed this turn. Well, okay, that takes care of that. No fortified actions. We have 3 orders. So right now, as things stand, we can only conduct 1 attack unless we gain 1 military point, but then any attack will have a -1. And we have the Luftwaffe in Malta, which we have a +1, but that's negated by that -1 that we have because of supplies. Yes, there's a rule for all 3 resources at 0 in the housekeeping phase, which we have not arrived yet. If all 3 are at 0, we lose the game. Right now we have all 3 at 0, so we have to increase something. If we don't increase something, we lose the game. So we have 3 actions, so we have to use at least 1 action to increase some of our resources, or one of our resources. Okay, the easiest to increase is morale, which is 3 or higher, and we're like we'll get 1 more turn. But we won't have an effective attack against the Luftwaffe because we'll have a -1 on attacks. If we increase supply, we still have military at 0, meaning we can only conduct 1 attack. I'm inclined to the first shot trying to increase supply. If it fails, I'll try to increase morale, and that way I still have 1 shot against the Luftwaffe. That's what I'm thinking. So let's use the first action to try to increase supplies. And the problem is, it's not really a 50-50. Because morale is at 0, we got a -1. So all these zeros operate against each other. Yes, morale is a resource. Yes. So the thing is, if we roll for supply, we need now to roll higher, 5 or 6. Ah boy. So we will roll for morale first in order to be able to have a decent roll for supply, in order to have a decent roll to push the Luftwaffe back. So this is a really delicate plan, 3-pronged plan, but we roll for morale, -1 for all resources, including morale. So we need 4, 5, or 6 to increase morale by 1. Okay, so here we go. It's our first of 3 actions. And that is a failure. So that was our first of 3 actions. 2 actions left. And if we don't get out of the 0 with supplies and morale, we're going to lose the game. So supplies, it's -1, so we would have to roll 5 or 6. So I think we got to try for morale again, which is the easier to achieve. So here we go. Second die roll. We have to increase morale. We need 4, 5, or 6. And it's a 1. This game is going to end very soon. So we're down to our last die roll. We have to get resources up by 1. We're not even worrying about the Luftwaffe in Malta and Operation Hercules and all that stuff. We need to increase our resources. And the easiest one to increase is morale, so we have to go again. And here, folks, the game may end because we have no more rolls. So we need 4 or more. Here we go, and the roll is a 5. We're still alive. Okay. So that's the end of our actions, and we only managed to increase morale by 1. So we're going to see Operation Hercules in all its splendor. So let's see how that turns out, but I think we're going to lose because you also factor in your resources. So here we go. Let's take a look at the sequence of play, make sure we do all this right. And we are in the housekeeping phase. Okay, convoy arrival. This was not a convoy turn, so we skip this. Defeat or victory. Determine if the game is over. This could entail an Operation Hercules check. If the game continues, then we go to C. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. So Operation Hercules. Let's take a look at what that means here. Okay. It is performed during the housekeeping phase of turns when the Axis fronts still occupy the Malta box. And of course, we have the Luftwaffe occupying the Malta box. So We go to step 1. Axis attack total. We roll 2 dice, subtract the Axis casualties at Crete. Let's bring that marker into the camera here. So that's a -1. And we add the battle value of the Axis fronts that are in Malta. So the Axis front in Malta is the Luftwaffe, so we add 4. And then we subtract, we sum the combined value of Malta's resources, military supply and morale. So military 0, supply 0, morale 1. And we, let's see, and add Malta's fort. So Malta's fort is a 4. So we have a strength actually of 5. Jesus, this is bad. Okay, if the final sum is -1 or less, Hercules is postponed and we're saved for the day. And we retreat the Axis units in the Malta box. And Malta's fort will be reduced by 1 level. And the game continues. If the final sum is 0 or more, Hercules is launched, succeeds, and we are defeated. So here we go. So we start Axis total. We will roll 2 dice, and we will add it to subtract Axis casualties and add 4 for the Luftwaffe. So here we go. We roll 2 dice. And there are 2 dice here. We're going to roll them. Oh boy, this is no chance at all. 10. 10, right? Minus casualties at Crete, -1. 9 plus 4 for the Luftwaffe, 13. Minus 5, which is Malta's strength, 8. So we lose the game here. That's the end of the game. Operation Hercules. We had how many cards left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cards to go. And the Africa Corps was heading towards the east here, was currently at Sidi Barani. So that's the end of the game, folks. A defeat. It's a tough game. But I think it's a really interesting state of siege game. So thank you guys. The Brits, we have, I think, people in Sweden. We have from all parts of the world witnessing this defeat live. So tell me what you think about if you like this format. I'm still working on things. It's live game playthroughs. The advantage for me, there's no editing, but of course to keep things entertaining, I have to, switch things around and move the camera around. And of course, not all games televise as well as this one. So like games with huge stacks, of course, and 20 turns, huge maps don't televise well. But one mappers that have fewer counters, I think they could be good for this purpose, and I intend to do more of these. I like to play the game and show how the game is played. If you like what you see, you can purchase the game. I think that's the best review. It's just watching somebody play the game and understanding the mechanics. So I'll keep on doing these videos. I'll keep on doing my edited videos also. But thanks for tuning in. I'm still going to be doing them unannounced until I have everything down pat. In the prior transmission, we had some problems that frames were dropped, and now I installed or I fine-tuned the system. We had 0 dropped frames. It's incredible. We had 183,875 frames, 0 drop. So there was no drop in frames. So I think the audio's fine. Everything is working great. And Keep Up the Fire, I got it. I got Keep Up the Fire. I did a video on that years ago, but there's a new edition. That's another tough game. I think these States of Siege games televise well, but I mean, there's other kinds of games, so I'll be trying all kinds of games that I think televise well. And as I gain practice with this, eventually I'll announce them. So stay tuned. But normally, if I'm going to do one of these things, I do them from either today was a special day, it was a holiday for us, but I normally start 8 or 9 p.m. Eastern time. So if you're subscribed, you will get the notice. I don't want to announce it yet because I'm still working the kinks of this audio-visual transmission, which I do by myself here. And the only other soul here in the room right now is my dog. So that's it for now. And I thank you for joining and your support. How you doing, Glenn? And so I'll see you in the next one. I don't know which game that will be, but I'm glad you enjoyed the format and the game. This is a game that from the States of Siege series, is one of my favorites. So, and I guess you can see why. It has a lot going for it. It's really tough, but it's very engaging. So that's it for now. And you think Raid on St. Nazaire would televise? Well, that's a long game though for live, but let's see. Okay, I want to thank each and every one of you who stuck around. And anyway, this is recorded. So this is, like I always say, Stuka Joe signing off for now. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.